Welcome back. Another installment of a morning yap session. This time we got the brothers with us. We got Z Shitty over here.
There you go.
There he is. Then we got David Chair Clark.
No, it's just David Clark, but I don't know what's up with this guy.
Chair. Anyways, we're gonna dive into a deep topic.
Yeah, what the fuck were you niggas talking about when you walked out here?
Okay, well we'll get to that.
Hey, Dave was talking about Mexican slavery or something.
Okay, well we'll get to that. But
get to that.
to start it off, the concept of death.
Oh god.
And
That's a crazy way to start, bro.
the concept of death and life in general. So, I don't know, you guys, I was telling this to you earlier before you told me to go get the camera.
He's gonna be yapping about so many good ideas and then just doesn't report it. Like, nigga.
So, he had actually had mentioned this because his girlfriend was studying philosophy in college, and it was this, the question of how do you know you're alive? And it's a deep question. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's a deep question. Because what do you, how do you know you're alive? You know?
You don't. I mean,
What's your personal opinion? Like, how do you know you're alive? Like, what do you constitute as you being alive? Like, what constitutes you being right here, right now, in my backyard, breathing the air that we're in, and just exist? Like, how do you constitute
Honestly,
delusion.
What? Fuck.
that? Explain that though. I like that though. What do you mean?
So I say delusion because even if it's not real, even if I'm not really alive, it feels like I am because I can feel the sun on my face. I can have conversations with my friends. I can breathe the air. So if I can do all that, if I can act as if I'm alive, then I'm okay with the delusion that, okay, even if I'm not, I'm still enjoying this. I'm still here.
That's valid.
Because it's the whole thing. That's why so many people don't think about it in the first place, because it freaks them out. It's like, oh my god, what if I'm not alive? Oh my god, what if I am in a simulation? And it can take away from the life that you actually do have, that you're currently living, because you're stuck in this state of fear. So I feel like I'm losing my train of thought, but
Oh, you're good.
basically it just comes back to being in the present moment, I feel like. Because when you're worried about, like I just said, when you're worried about even if you are alive, how are you gonna enjoy the life you have even if you're quote unquote not alive? See, that's the thing with this kind of topic. It makes you sound kind of stupid because it's hard to make sense because it's such a weird thing.
It's a concept that I also struggle with as well, and it was what I was telling you before. It's that we view how we look at life is on a spectrum, and what I mean by that is when you look into how light works and how the rays of light are on the whole color spectrum, we actually only see a fraction of the whole color spectrum, because our eyes, that's how we were born with, and that's how we're meant to see everything. But there's other animals out there, people, the animals living in the oceans, or insects. They all view the world differently because they take light in differently. And so it reminds me that, especially after we die, what is gonna happen? There's multiple religions, multiple sayings, there's the afterlife with Christianity, there's reincarnation with Buddhism, and then there's just the concept of nothingness when you die. The concept that when you're gone, that's it. You just go to sleep forever, never to wake up again.
Yeah,
and those three thoughts are scary because the idea of the afterlife, if you don't live this perfect life where you conform to God and accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you're just going to be judged at the end of it. And if you were a good person, you'll go to heaven. If you were a bad person and you sinned a lot, you'll go to hell. Same thing with Buddhism,
Wait, before you go to Buddhism, something about the Christianity part is what you just said, I think is what a lot of people get wrong about Christianity, and it gives them a wrong perception of it. Because you hear words like need to conform to God in his ways, that's what's going to make people be like, okay, wait, I have to let me just be this dictatorship kind of thing. No, that's not what I want. And that's usually what will drive people away from Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, how people get into heaven in the afterlife is more so of, yes, that part you got right, of accepting Jesus Christ into your heart. But I think I told you a couple days ago, the whole thing with God and Christianity is we're seeking out a relationship with him. God wants a relationship with us. That's what kind of is the determining factor of whether you go to heaven or hell. But it's not meant to look at it as okay, I need to do this, I need to do everything right, I need to blah, 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 because I'm going to be judged and God's going to send me to hell. It's if you want eternal life with Jesus, if you want that time with him, that in itself is what's going to get you into heaven. You just have to want it. If you don't want to, that's what quote unquote send you to hell. But it's not meant to be as like a punishment. It's just simply like, okay, you didn't want to go down this road with Jesus. This is what life looks like without Jesus, kind of thing. So it's not really trapping you in a corner of, okay, you need to do this or do that. Like, you need to do everything right so you can go to heaven, or, you know, if you fuck up in any way, you're going to go burn in hell for eternity.
I completely agree with that. I would just say it's a lot of the extremist ideologies that I hear
100%.
hear about religion that makes me think this way, and obviously it's very ignorant to think about it that way. But what I was getting more at is the three main concepts of death, like that most people think about. Christianity, going to heaven or hell; Buddhism, where if you did bad shit in your past life, you're just going to be reincarnated into a worse state than you were when you lived your first life. And then the other concept of just nothing happens. Those three fears will often or not make people get pointed into the right direction because of this idea of what happens after we die. And it's going back to what he said about being in the present moment, where you can't really determine what's gonna happen and what you do when you die. Like, literally, today could be my last day on earth and you wouldn't hear from me anymore. Same with same with everyone. Today could literally be our last day. And it's how you hold yourself and what you do and like how you're okay with that. And basically, just to backtrack a little bit about this whole idea of death thing, it's like we constantly fear about death because we haven't done enough in our current life. Often or not, I find myself thinking, what do I need to do more? Like, how can I do more before I go? And what can I do to leave behind a decent footprint on the world so that, I'm thought about fondly, especially when I die. Like, I don't want my homies to think, all the worst shit I did. When I go, I want them to look back fondly on my memories and like the impact that I left on the world. And that's just the way that I want to, the way that I look at it. I wouldn't say I've accepted death. I would say I'm more aware of it. I'm more appreciative of the time that I have now, I'd say, rather than fearing it. I think we all fear death at a certain point, especially maybe as we get older, it's going to be easier to cope with it. But still, just the amount of people that have died in my life so far.
I think you tend to feel like more scared of death the more people around you pass away.
100%.
Because like when my friend died, like my aunt died in 2016, I was like scared of death for a couple of years, just like thinking I'd die, having panic attacks like that. And then when my friend died in November, I was like scared I was gonna get hit by a car, like, oh shit, we can really die at any moment, just like that. Like we could be done, and then our consciousness would just shut off. And that's really what my thought process was. Then I realized, like, no matter what, life is gonna keep moving forward. When I'm gone or when I'm not gone. So you might as well live life like you're here constantly instead of worrying about if you're not gonna be here, and just keep moving forward.
Exactly, because you only have so much control over things in your life. Like, there are a lot of instances where you can obviously avoid death. There's also so many things like life just happens when it happens. Like, shit can just happen to you. There's not shit you can do about it. Like, if it's cancer, if it's really anything internal sometimes, like, a lot of times, like, you just can't do shit about it unless it's something that you catch early. So, like, it's when you live in fear of death, like, if you're walking out, you're scared to go outside because you're afraid if you walk in the street, you're going to get hit by a car or someone's going to shoot you. Those are things that, to an extent you can control, obviously, in your area, but, like, at the same time, it's like, if you just constantly live in that state of fear, you're never going to do anything. You're going to lose all of your quality of life.
And it goes back to this idea of living in the present moment, where and living your life to the fullest and leaving behind a decent footprint. Obviously, when I say leave behind a footprint, I'm not talking about making a fuck ton of money and then once you make that money, donate it to charity and like be the all messiah where you can like just have a huge giant footprint. No, I what I'm more talking about is like doing good without the cameras on. Just doing something where you don't even need recognition. Like, I hate this concept of like people getting on camera and paying people's rent in the hood, or painting these kids rooms in the hood, or giving money back in the hood. Obviously there's definitely good behind it, but like why do you have to have the camera on? You know, like what makes you need to have the camera on to show how these people are living and like almost exploiting off them to like get the clicks?
For that is that the clicks that they get from making those videos and like the amount of donations they get for GoFundMe's for those videos to give back really kind of outweighs all of that. Like Mr. Beast is a good example. Like
I was gonna say I feel like Mr. Beast is on the opposite end.
Wait, Mr. Beast is a good example. At first, when he used to help people a lot, but now he's such a company man, and he's reached those millions to where he can't do.
It's not sustainable.
He can't do everything he wants.
Yeah.
By himself, he can't do everything good anymore. Reaching that level.
You know, and it goes back to this idea I've said before. You know, you get too lost in the sauce. You know,
exactly.
It's like, also because of the fact that like what David was saying, when Mr. Beast, for example, gets like that big of a corporation, now he's responsible for other people's lives, like paying out old people that work for him. So when you get to that certain extent, it becomes less of, okay, let me stop focusing on, you know, poor, I hate to say like poor and needy, but like just less fortunate people, and like let me focus on taking care of my own people right now.
And he had a great business model at first, you know, like taking care of the less well off, you know, trying to do better, but it just goes back to what I said before. It's like, why do you have to have the cameras on? Why do you have to do like a good deed? You know, obviously, you know, his whole business model is, I make these videos, I spend all my money on it, and it's a return on investment. I get that, but like, still, at the end of the day, like you just do good for the sake of doing good. You know, if you just constantly just do good and you just be happy all the time, like, obviously you like, I'm not saying being happy is the move and like always good shit's gonna happen to you, because bad shit always happens to people. Like, we always go through some fucked up shit regardless of how good of a person you are, and that's just the world we live in. But it's better to at least live in a state of, okay, well, at least, you know, like when it goes back to death, you know, like when you die, you're gonna look back on all the moments where you could have been a good person or you could have been a bad person, and if you chose to be good, you can at least fondly go in peace and think about all the good stuff that you did. Or you can slowly deteriorate into ash, where you're thinking about all the times you fucked over your friends or you fucked over other people for the sake of your own gain, you know? And same thing with like these corporations and billionaires, you know, like they don't have our best interest at heart. Like they definitely don't give a fuck about us. Like, think about Elon Musk, you know, he's cutting the funding for child cancer research. Like, what the fuck is that gonna do?
Think about any millionaire,
any billionaire, you know, Zuckerberg, Musk, fucking Tim Cook, fucking
bro. Okay,
Bill
if
Gates.
you think any billionaire out there is actually interested in your genuine well-being and like your best interest at heart, you're fucking stupid. That's just common sense. Like why would a fucking billionaire? Why would a billionaire be so concerned about you just like as a normal person and your well-being? They have so much other shit on their mind. They got business plays going on. They have people to pay out. They have like scaling to do. Why would they actually give a fuck about you and where you are?
All they're focused about is trying to get the most tax advantage they can from their president and be chilling for the rest of the year. Like, people like us that aren't making money like that yet, at least, you know, they're just going to continue to fuck us over. They're just going to continue to rip money out of our wallets so that they can feed their egos and they can continue winning while we keep losing. Like, it's going to get to a point like where we have to really band together as one unit, see how they're fucking us over and being like, hey, that's not right, you know? And I've said this before, but like, we all have a sense of identity and we all have a sense of wanting to be unique and wanting to be different and wanting the best for ourselves, but often or not, we are living, and most people are living, not wanting to be special, not wanting to be the next Zuckerberg, not wanting to be the next Elon Musk, but it's the sense of they want to have a duty and they want to have an accomplishment to go with their life. Like, at the end of the day, we still need, you know, grocery store workers, you know, people that are essential workers. Like, we need like farmers, pharmacists, doctors. Like, we need all these basic ass jobs to function as a society.
But being an entrepreneur is so fucking glorified in today's
Exactly.
time.
Like, especially right now, like it's not bad to be an entrepreneur, especially if you find a niche that is selling to a niche group of people and you can like feed into that. That's perfect. We're not saying if you can jump on an opportunity that is ahead of the wave of everyone else, go for it. make your money however you need to. But what I'm saying is that we're being pointed into this society where they want more people to be independent and not have the proper information and know what the fuck's going on in the real world. Like, you don't have to be the next Zuckerberg. You could just be some Joe Schmo who's managing their own fucking store, but as long as you're making enough money to put a roof over your head and food on the table, you know, that's often or not what most people want in life. They want to be able to make enough money to put a roof over their head, food on their table, and eventually, and you know, go out every once in a while. That's not crazy to say. That is not insane way to live. That is how most of the people, that's how our grandparents were actually living back then in the fucking 60s and the 70s, you know? They just had regular ass jobs and they were able to pay for like 2-story, 5-bedroom, 4-bath houses just casually for like 36,000 down, you know? And now these houses are like damn near fucking $500,000, you know? When are we gonna be able to get into like investment properties and like being able to set up our future? Like, no one in society, especially at the top, and especially people that are like 20, 30 years older than us, they're not thinking about that. They're not thinking about the next 20-year-olds that are coming up trying to build themselves a better future. Like, they're not thinking about that. And obviously the fastest way and the best way to make money right now is being like an independent entrepreneur trying to
like
build your assets.
Like, if you have a house and you're from 25 to 30, maybe even 35, you are considered a GOAT. Like, if you somehow have the money, like self-made, you built it from the ground up, and it's here 2025 today, you're 25 or 30, and you own your own house, you're seen as a GOAT. But back in like 1960, 1970, if you're 25, 30, and you just put a down payment on a house, you were just a normal ass person.
That was just the regular.
That was just
a norm. And society has been built up in this way of like trying to think that that's not normal. Like, buying a house is such a spectacle nowadays. It's like, bro, we were literally doing this about damn near 50 years ago, and this shit was calm. Like, it hasn't even been that long. Like, and it's just crazy that like we're like still conforming to this and still listening to the government, thinking that they have our interests at heart. Like, I don't even want to get political on this channel, but like, what the fuck is Trump gonna do for you specifically? Specifically, like I said, I'm not gonna get too political, but just looking at the state of this world, and like, or not this world, but this country and what it's coming to, and the shit that I keep seeing on the internet, and the shit that keeps happening, it just makes me feel like this needs to be said, and it just needs to be heard by some of people. Like, if you feel the same way, you just say that shit with your chest, bro, because often or not, it's gonna go unheard or unnoticed, and if you don't say it, then it's never gonna be heard. Like, we have to have our voice be strong as fuck at this point. Like, it's starting to piss me off, like, on a personal level. Like, it almost feels disrespectful, you know? Like, we have to, like, we are given a voice. Like, the Constitution was written for us to protest, for us to take back what's ours. Like, those motherfuckers work for us, but we don't realize that.
Just 200, 300 years ago, slaves were getting their balls cut off just for nothing.
A bit of an extreme, but that might be true.
It's crazy to think about. That was not even really that long ago. Compared to like the amount of progress that people have made, probably from like the 1200s to the 1500s, compared to the progress that we've made from the 1800s to 2025, is overwhelming. Like, back in the 1400s, they were on horses with chariots, and in the 1800s, they were still using horses to drive wagons. Now we have planes in the fucking sky. The world is moving quick as hell when you think about it, and we have to move even quicker than the world.
We have to make sure that we have the reins of our own life. Like, why should we be appointing someone who's about to die in the next 20 years, not even see the fruits of his own labor, you know? Like, really think about that. We're putting all these old motherfuckers in office who got about maybe 20 to 30 years left to go. They're not gonna see what the fuck's gonna happen in the next 100 years.
Unless they freeze themselves.
Now we're getting into some conspiracy theory shit.
Think about it. I was born in 2004. If I live to be 96 years old, it's gonna be 2100 in the future. That sounds like a futuristic ass year. The amount of stuff that we're gonna have different in 2100 compared to 2004 compared to 2025 is insane. So I feel like,
I love it. It's just a body talking and no head.
Us having a president who's, how old is Trump?
70 something.
70 something. He's not even gonna be alive in 2050, bro. He's gonna be dead. it's just crazy to think about that we have somebody who's not even gonna be able to see what's happening in 2050, be the president right now in 2025.
Yeah.
Is that a bar?
This got a little bit political, but honestly, I feel like eventually it was gonna get to that point. I guess to sum this up and wrap it up, don't take shit from motherfuckers who don't have your best interests at heart. Do what you gotta do to make ends meet. Come together as one unit. Stop fighting over petty bullshit. We have to take action now. Love one another and just try to be better than you were yesterday.
Yeah.
This has been a morning yap session with the brothers.
Be better, Zach.
Signing off.
Be better.
Oh, signing off.